perfect. Are you ready to get really excited? This is one of the UK's rarest bumblebees and our sort of flagship species for our project. That is a shrill carder bee, posing beautifully for you.
Bees will just do what they're programmed to do. There's no taskmaster, there's no manager, there's no boss in the colony. They all just go about doing what it is they're doing, all in a very coordinated way. And I find that quite remarkable. If you've ever tried to get a group of human beings to agree on something, you know that it can be like herding cats. Bees just seem to get on with it. So it's a group of us and we're trying to see if we can breed some really nice queens in different parts of Somerset from which we can build strong colonies that are disease resistant, that are very good temperamented bees, they're not aggressive and very productive. We just thought it would be fun to see if we can find a friendly landowner, let us put some hives in a suitably lovely and isolated spot so we can see what we can do. Originally, very, very many years ago when I was at university, the Beekeeping Society seemed to be an interesting one, so I joined them. It's only when 5 or 6 years ago when we moved to the Somerset that I thought actually I wanted to start keeping bees, so we did. There's some amazing things about bees. They really are very fascinating creatures. I did chemistry at university, and so I've always been a scientist, and the genetics and the biology I find really addictive. They're almost like alien creatures, you know. Each individual insect is cold-blooded and they behave exactly like other insects. But as a group, they form this superorganism. The temperature of a hive is always kept warm. They behave like warm-blooded mammals in some regards. And when they reproduce, yes, each individual bee has an egg and a larvae and grows up. But the superorganism swarms, the colony splits, and 2/3 of the bees go in one direction and form another super colony. I find them fascinating, incredibly fascinating. I was watching one now. I don't think she's as impressed with me as I am with her.
So today we're at the seawall site in North Kent, and I've come out to do a survey for bumblebees. This is a very good site, and one of the reasons is there's a great abundance of flowers and the sorts of flowers that bumblebees really need and like as well. So here we've got a couple of different kinds of clovers, there's meadow vetchling here, and all these sorts of plants are what the bumblebees are looking for. So hopefully we'll find some. I've had a huge passion and interest in insects for quite a long time, but bees really grabbed my attention. I went on a bumblebee identification course, and having gone from thinking I'd be a sort of general naturalist, I was suddenly hooked on bees.
And today we're going to do a bit of a hive inspection before we take them up to the field where their new home is going to be. So we beekeepers usually work from behind the hive so that the returning bees don't get too confused about why you're standing in front of their house. So when a beekeeper opens a hive, they're always looking for a few things. They're looking to see whether or not the bees have enough stores, so honey and pollen, but also they're looking to see for eggs and larvae. see if we can find the queen. You don't always get to see her. Oh, here she is. So the red dot is a colour marker that the beekeeper puts on the queen to make her a little bit easier to see. The other bees tend to form a circle around her as she's holding court. And the reason for this is bees are constantly touching the queen, and in this process they're transferring pheromones from her. But one of the things that's super exciting for beekeepers is when you catch a swarm and some strange foreign swarm of bees chooses to come and reside in one of your hives. And this is exactly what happened with the bees inside this nucleus box, which is a small version of a hive. I'd set this up, I'd baited it, I'd put some pheromone in there to encourage bees that had swarmed to find this as their new home. So one of the things I personally do as a beekeeper when I catch a swarm like this is I replace the queen. I find the queen that has come in the swarm, and I replace her with a queen whose temperament I know and I'm happy with. You do kill her, and that happens reasonably often. Sometimes you have a very aggressive colony, a really aggressive colony of bees. Their personality and their temperament is very aggressive. All the bees inside a colony are the offspring of a queen, and so the queen sets the temperament and the personality of the entire hive.
So there's lots of different threats and pressures that bumblebees face, and these are everything from habitat loss to climate change, use of pesticides. You can hear one. Because we've had such dry weather, a lot of plants aren't producing a lot of nectar, and so there's not much to forage on. So this is one of our solitary bee species. It doesn't collect its pollen on its hind legs like the bumblebees do. So this particular species collects its pollen on the underside of the abdomen. It's fully packed with pollen now, so you can't actually see the hairs underneath. Couldn't believe I'd gone for so long without even noticing they existed or dismissing them maybe as flies and that sort of thing. And now I see them everywhere.
Now the really unglamorous part is moving blocks of concrete to create a nice base for the hives. I hope the bees appreciate the effort I'm going to giving them a nice home. The things I need to make sure doesn't happen is when we're moving them that these different components slip off, because they're not stuck together and they can slide. So this is fastening the seat belts before the plane takes off. So it's time to move the bees now, and it's about 8:30 in the evening, and there aren't any bees returning, there's no bees flying, so I think it's safe to say that most of the bees are tucked up. It's not a good idea for them to come out in the car. There we go. can hear them buzzing. Poor things. They're not appreciating being bounced around. Right. Whew. I think they're great company, right? You know, it's very difficult to be stressed around them, and they're very calming. And I like caring for them. I still am going to care for them. I just can't pop up and have a coffee with them and have a chat about my day. I think they're all inside now, so I'm just going to shut that door. Oh, don't come out. Come on, there we go. Good girls.
That is a shrill cardabee. So I always think this species is distinctive for its lack of distinctiveness. So it's got this sort of lovely straw coloured hair. So it used to be far more widespread in the south, but it's been lost from lots of places where it formerly occurred, and now just exists in a few populations, some of which are becoming isolated. But it's gorgeous. So with the loss of wildflower habitat, it's really struggled. It'd just be so incredibly sad to lose that species, wouldn't it? It's just such a beautiful species. Because I do this for a living, and because I see this species quite often, I guess it would be easy to take it for granted because I see it, and I just think, but then I have to stop and remember sometimes how vulnerable and how rare this is. And it just feels like a lot of responsibility. You should go, dude. And what if in 20 years' time I'm talking to younger people and saying, God, there used to be shrill cardabees and you just don't see them anymore? And I just think that would be very, very sad.
They're definitely in a bad mood, I think it's safe to say. They're being jiggled around, they don't like being jiggled around. And yeah, so they'll settle down by tomorrow, they'll have made new friends, they'll be... It's quite sad really, shipping them off to school. Has everyone gone to the toilet? Because we're not stopping. Right, bye. I've just finished putting the planks down on those concrete blocks, so we can put the hives on them now. It's really quite impressive. Wow, you can feel the heat of the bees through the box. So the really nice thing about bees is you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you don't have to be professional about it, and it doesn't have to be your career. It is like astronomy, right? You know, a lot of hobbyist astronomers have discovered great things, and not planning on discovering great things, but it's fun to do some real biology. Right, let me get the others out because they're going to be really, really annoyed. The flying bees that have already become used to where they were before will come out tomorrow and try and fly away, and they'll get confused, and some may get lost and not return, and others may return. But for 6 weeks of the life, the honeybee, in the summer anyway, for 6 weeks the honeybee remains inside the hive. She doesn't come out, and she takes care of all the housekeeping chores, the cleaning, the feeding, the nursing of the brood and looking after the queen. And then after 3 weeks, she begins to fly and do all the chores that all the other bees do, collecting nectar and pollen and things. And so she'll come out and she'll do her orientation flights. And for her, this is where she's always been. She will never know that she's left. Expecting the colony's numbers to boost quite significantly. And then we can start the queen breeding process. So we'll begin putting some queen grafts, grafting some larvae into queen cells, having the bees raise queens, tricking them into thinking that they need to raise more queens, and then we'll let those queens hatch in some mating hives, and then they can go off, get mated and make more bees, and the whole process begins again.